soaring cost of gas and food and so much more. Our Matt Egan has the number. Matt, what is it?
Victor, breaking news moments ago, the Federal Reserve announcing an interest rate increase of 3/4 of a percentage point. This is an aggressive step aimed at trying to tame red-hot inflation. This is the biggest single move by the Federal Reserve since 1994, and it means higher borrowing costs for families, mortgages, credit cards, student debt, car loans. And what's amazing here is that this all came together in really the last few days. Friday's inflation report was so disastrous, showing the biggest spike in consumer prices in over 40 years, that the Fed felt the need to move faster here, to take a page out of the playbook of Alan Greenspan and Paul Volcker with a very big interest rate increase. And they signaled that more aggressive steps are to come, because Fed officials said that they are, quote, strongly committed to getting inflation back down to 2%. And given that it's nowhere near 2% right now, that does imply more big rate increases to come. As far as why this is happening, I think it's important to think about the economy as almost like a car on a highway, and the Fed is the driver. When it needs to speed the car up, it'll cut interest rates to stimulate demand. Right now, we have the opposite situation. It's going dangerously fast, and so the Fed needs to slow things down. It's actually slamming the brakes on the economy. The problem here, Victor, for the Fed is if they don't do enough, inflation can go out of control. If they do too much, they could end up slowing the economy right into a recession.
Rahel Solomon, business reporter, is here with me as well. So, listen, a month ago, 75 basis points was not on the table, not being considered. And heading into today, it was expected. What's the reaction now to what we're seeing?
Well, it looks like the investors and markets like what they're seeing. In fact, I just got off the phone about 15 minutes ago with David Wilcox, an economist with the Peterson Institute and Bloomberg, and asked if, in fact, we do see 0.75%, what does that signal to you? And he said this is the Fed essentially trying to regain control of the narrative, that it understands the depth of this issue and that it is getting ahead of it, that it is coming out stronger than perhaps before. So this is a regaining of the narrative. And when we hear from Jay Powell in about 28 minutes, it'll be really interesting to hear his language around this.
Now let's go back to Matt, who was there in D.C., expecting to hear from the Fed Chairman Jerome Powell in a few minutes. Now, what's the expectation of the narratives he's trying to set here?
Well, Victor, Jerome Powell has to, first of all, explain what changed, because just 6 weeks ago, he was at the press conference for the Fed, and he said that a 75 basis point move, what they just did today, was not actively under consideration, and now they're actually doing it. He also needs to explain what's going to happen in the economy next, because new projections that were just put out by the Federal Reserve moments ago show a darkening picture for the economy. The Fed downgraded its GDP forecast for both this year and next year. The Fed is now calling for 1.7% real GDP increase. That is down from 2.8% back in March. They also increased slightly their unemployment projections, and they are ramping up their inflation forecast. The Fed is now saying that its preferred inflation gauge, the PCE metric, is going to be at 5.2% at the end of this year. That is up from 4.3%, its earlier projection in March. So that is nowhere near what is considered healthy inflation. And so I think that Jerome Powell is going to have to try to regain some credibility here and try to explain to people exactly what they're going to do to try to get inflation back under control, Victor.
Rahel, back to you. The experts you're speaking with, do they expect that this 0.75 point will do what needs to be done?
Well, that's a very interesting question. In terms of monetary policy, not yet, right? Because there's a lag about 6 to 9 months in terms of what we see in terms of monetary policy and when we start to see that really reflected in the data and in the economy. But again, this is messaging, right? This is messaging to the markets, to households, that the Fed understands that inflation is not moderating even. It is accelerating. So it understands that it has to do more. And the unfortunate reality is that will likely cause some pain in the interim, right? In terms of course, inflation sort of remaining with us, but also perhaps even some joblessness. And so that remains to be seen, but it looks like some pain will be had.
All right, Rahel Solomon, Matt Egan, thank you both. Let's bring in now CNN global economist or economic analyst Rana Foroohar. She's also a global business columnist and associate editor at the Financial Times, and business journalist Mark Stewart. Rana, let me start with you. Just your reaction to the decision from the Fed today.
Well, it's totally appropriate. I was expecting this, even though it hasn't been on the table very long. Inflation is out of control, and the Fed's got to get it under control. I think also we've been seeing real coordinated messages, really, from the Fed and the White House that, look, this is a Volcker moment. This is time to bring out the big guns, and I think it's appropriate that they've done so. It's going to make the market very, very volatile in the near term, so folks should definitely strap in, but it's the right decision.
Mark, first thoughts?
Well, there is no question this was a data-driven decision based off of what we are seeing happening right now. I think the question is what happens next. And I think a lot of people are asking themselves, are we going to move closer into a recession? I can tell you every morning I wake up, I'm sure Rahel feels the same way. We get emails from analysts, from bankers, all putting their spin on all of this. What we don't know is what's next, and that is truly a clear question. I think one way to think about all of this as to what's happening today and what's happening in the future is kind of like a chef trying to perfect a recipe. Sometimes you need more salt, sometimes you need more sugar, but you don't want to add too much. And that's what the Fed is trying to balance here.
Rana, help us understand the gravity of what just happened. First time in 28 years, an increase of this size. If we're using the braking analogy, is this a tap? Is this firm pressure?
Yeah.
Or did the Fed slam on the brakes today?
It was very firm and moving towards a slam. I actually like the recipe analogy. As a matter of fact, I was thinking about a souffle, you know,
Okay.
and the market is a souffle. I mean, it has been pumped up by the Fed for years now, not just since the pandemic, but since the financial crisis. And so we are really in unprecedented territory. So, you know, the 2/3 of a point, or sorry, 3/4 of a point rise is really unprecedented. How it's going to affect the market, I think, is going to be larger than it would be in the past, just because there has been so much money put into the market by their Federal Reserve. I mean, we haven't lived through a sort of a monetary experiment like this ever. So it's really uncharted territory.
Yeah. Mark, what are the first indicators you'll be looking for and when to determine the impact of this decision and if it's starting to cool inflation?
Well, I think very early on we should see different sales numbers. So, for example, as we know, when you raise interest rates, it costs more to borrow. So therefore, things like home mortgages, auto loans are all going to cost more. In addition to paying off things like credit card debt, I think what we need to do is look at the housing data, look at the mortgage data. And as we have seen every month from the census, we get a good idea as to how much people are spending. If that spending cools off, then perhaps that's a good indication it's having some impact.
Rana, on that point of volatility you made just a moment ago, we saw the Dow spike to about 340 in the green territory, and just a few seconds ago dipped into negative, now back across the line. We're seeing what is a clear reaction to the decision.
100%. You know, what's happening now is partly algorithms kicking in. A lot of trading is computerized right now, and it's rising and falling on certain words, certain messages. But there's also an interesting phenomenon that I'm going to be very curious about. A lot of retail investors have actually plowed into the market in the last few months and weeks. You know, you've seen a fourfold increase, actually, in the last few months of retail investor flows into the market. That's typical of a bubble where, you know, unfortunately, the little guy sort of gets in at the very end and then sometimes takes some of that pain. The question is, are people going to buy this dip and thus you're going to see the market maybe rebound in the next few weeks? Or are they going to say, the Fed's finally pulling the plug and they've been pretty much what's been pumping up markets, so we're out and we're going to stay on the sidelines for a while now?
All right, Rana, Mark, stay with us. I want to bring another element into this conversation, and that's President Biden's letter to 7 major oil companies today. He's demanding that they, quote, take immediate actions to increase supply. Now, he also warned that their high profit margins are unacceptable at a time of war overseas and, of course, soaring prices for consumers at home. CNN's chief White House correspondent Caitlin Collins is here. So tell us about the decision to write this letter and how soon the administration expects some response from these companies.
Well, they're hoping to see action soon, but whether or not they are going to get that doesn't seem very clear right now, because they've put out this strongly worded letter, but the White House knows they're pretty limited in the tools they can use here, despite the president warning that he is potentially prepared to use emergency authorities should these companies not increase their output like he's asking them to do. And one thing that a Democratic senator has put on the table, Senator Ron Wyden, is this idea of a surtax on excess profits by oil and gas companies, is something that the Energy Secretary was asked about when she was on CNN earlier today.
No tool has been taken off the table, and he wants to hear from the refineries, the companies who are doing refining, to see what is the bottleneck and how we can increase supply. And he's also asking, of course, for the oil and gas industry to increase supply as well by drilling more.
So you heard from Secretary Granholm, they're hoping to have a meeting where they can hear ideas from these oil company executives. But already these companies are saying that really their hands are tied here. There is nothing they can do to quickly ramp up production. A lot of them say they're already operating almost at full capacity. And the American Petroleum Institute is pushing back on this new letter from President Biden, saying that it's his misguided policy agenda shifting away from domestic oil and natural gas that has compounded these inflationary pressures and basically made things worse. So the question there, of course, is whether or not there is going to be this issue is going to be resolved when these two sides do actually meet. Because, Victor, you have seen the president ramping up the pressure on these oil companies. You heard him last week at the Port of Los Angeles saying that he believed Exxon made more money than God last year. But a lot of these companies have said some of these facilities that they shut down was because they were not profitable during COVID-19 when demand was so low. Now, of course, they are dealing with demand incredibly high, and they say that they're really operating almost at full capacity. But it certainly is the president also taking a step here on the messaging front, saying he's doing everything he can to bring down prices, which the White House is conceding not much in a unilateral view.
Caitlin Collins with the reporting from the White House. Caitlin, thank you. Let's bring back now Mark and Ronna. Mark, let me start with you on this letter from the president and the response. Some of this is politics, right? The back and forth between the White House and we now got this response from the Petroleum Institute. But to the heart of what the president is requesting here, how much would that impact gas prices?
I think there's a lot of debate among economists and oil analysts about how much needs to be done. It would have to be a significant amount to add to this mix. I think the thing which we have to remember here is that the oil companies, although we would like to think they have a big allegiance to the American consumer, their biggest allegiance is to their shareholders and to their investors. And this is a capitalist society, so they are able to operate like this. I think, though, the next few months ahead are going to be very telling. If indeed oil imports from Russia are cut off to Europe, that could cause prices to spike. And as we've discussed before, oil being sold at anywhere from $180 to $200 a barrel is still being discussed. So perhaps the economics will create some pressure for the oil companies, but right now, they are staying in their lane of what they want to do.
Ronna, what's the impact of one on another, the increase of the interest rate on gas prices, on what Caitlin just reported?
Well, it's interesting. You know, when interest rates go up, it makes debt more expensive. You know, we actually saw a few years back a shakeout in the oil and gas market. There were a lot of companies that had taken on a lot of debt to make investment. We saw an interest rate shift and actually a sort of a pullback of some of that Fed easy money, and you did see some fallout in the industry. I don't think that that's going to happen now because, frankly, you know, you've got record oil prices that are likely to stay high for some time, and it must be said much of this is about the war in Ukraine. Certainly, if you were to see Europe pull Russian gas offline, that would be a major price impactor. I'm sure that's something that the White House and the Fed probably don't want to see in the short term because it would affect American consumers absolutely. One thing I'm going to be watching is as energy goes up, as food goes up, are consumers cutting back on everything else? There's a lot of signs that basically any kind of expenditure that isn't absolutely necessary, a streaming service, a new gadget, you know, a toy, people are cutting back on that, and that is in turn going to hurt companies at a time when their debt servicing is getting higher. That could mean that we start seeing some bankruptcies, and that will in turn have an effect on the stock market.
Yeah, anecdotally, one of our correspondents heard from a woman today who, because of the cost of filling up her tank, couldn't buy herself a birthday present. I think it was a purse. So we're starting to see consumers, all of us, make some hard decisions. Ronna Foroohar, Mark Stewart, thank you.
Thank you.
The January 6th committee releases new video of a Republican congressman appearing to lead a tour through the Capitol on the eve of the insurrection. He is now responding. You'll hear that. And results from several key primaries prove former President Trump's power over the GOP has not waned. A breakdown of the results and the bigger picture. Next.
Bogeys on your 6th limo. They need customized car insurance from Liberty Mutual, so they only pay for what they need.
We are not getting you a helicopter.
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Some people have minor joint pain plus high blood pressure, and since pain relievers may affect blood pressure, they can't just take anything for their pain. Tylenol is the #1 doctor-recommended pain relief brand for those with high blood pressure. If you have questions on whether Tylenol is right for you, talk to your doctor.
Hey team, just got a request to refresh the network in 300 of our offices by next week.
That could take months.
Exactly.
Hey, you know it doesn't have to be this way, right? Juniper's industry-leading AI automatically sets up, configures, and validates thousands of secure SD-WAN connections in minutes. So you don't have to bend over backwards.
I thought I was flexible.
You're a one-man stitchwork master, but your staffing plan needs to go up a size. You need to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Indeed Instant Match instantly delivers quality candidates matching your job description. Visit Indeed.com/hire.
And we're back. It's time to see which chew provides the longest-lasting flea and tick protection.
Bravecto's the big winner. 12 weeks of powerful protection, nearly 3 times longer than any other chew.
Bravo, Bravecto. Bravo.
No matter who you are, being yourself can be tough when you have severe asthma. Triggers can pop up out of nowhere, causing inflammation that can lead to asthma attacks. But no matter what type of severe asthma you have, Tespire can help. Tespire is a new add-on treatment for people 12 and over that proactively reduces inflammation, which means you could have fewer attacks, breathe better, and relieve your asthma symptoms. So you can be you, whoever you are. Tespire is not a rescue medication. Don't take Tespire if you're allergic to it. Allergic reactions like rash or an eye allergy can happen. Don't stop your asthma treatments unless your doctor tells you to. Tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection or your asthma worsens. Sore throat, joint, and back pain may occur. Avoid live vaccines. By helping control your asthma, Tespire can help you be you, no matter who you are. Ask your asthma specialist about Tespire today.
When America is tested, we find strength from within and power through the challenges. But it takes reliable, affordable energy, and we've got a choice on how we get it. Import energy from unstable regions or produce natural gas and oil right here in America. Depend on foreign governments for our natural gas and oil or protect our energy independence, keep American jobs, and maintain global competitiveness. Solutions are made in America with America's natural gas and oil.
COVID-19 moves fast, and now you can too, by asking your healthcare provider if an oral treatment is right for you. Oral treatments can be taken at home and must be taken within 5 days from when symptoms first appear. If you have symptoms of COVID-19, even if they're mild, don't wait. Get tested quickly. If you test positive and are at high risk for severe disease, act fast. Ask if an oral treatment is right for you. COVID-19 moves fast, and now you can too.
It's still the Eat Fresh Refresh, and now Subway's refreshing their Italians. Like the new Supreme Meat, topped high with new Italian-style capicola. That's one handsome Italian.
Thanks.
Not you, Garoppolo. Subway keeps refreshing and refreshing and refreshing.
We have a dog and a cat. Welcome to my family. They leave traces of hair with their shedding all over the house. And I want to make sure that the air quality is good for my kids. Filtree filters help take care of things I thought I had no control over. They give me a sense of relief and peace of mind. My kids are happy, my cat is happy, my dog is happy, everything's good.
New footage from the January 6th committee shows a person who was led on a tour by GOP Congressman Barry Loudermilk on January 5th, 2021, taking photos of tunnels, hallways, staircases inside the Capitol. And it was then back the very next day making threats against specific members of Congress. U.S. Capitol Police released a letter this week saying that they found no suspicious activities or evidence that Loudermilk led a reconnaissance tour. Loudermilk is accusing the January 6th committee of a smear campaign. This is part of his tweet in response. This false narrative that the committee and Democrats continue to push that Republicans, including myself, led reconnaissance tours is verifiably false. Nowhere that I went with the visitors in the House office buildings on January 5th were breached on January 6th. With me now, CNN senior political analyst John Avlon, author of Washington's Farewell and Wingnuts, and CNN political commentator Margaret Hoover, host of PBS Firing Line. Welcome to you both. Let's start here. That response, that reaction from Loudermilk, the committee, or at least the suggestion was he's leading this recon tour. What do you think of his response?
I think there's a lot of explaining to do, in part on the part of the Capitol police officers, because they exonerated him. And the question is it the definition of a reconnaissance tour? Does that imply that Loudermilk knew what he was doing? That may well not be the case. But the committee's got the tapes.
Yeah.
They released the tapes. And these are folks who are getting a tour on the day the Capitol was closed to visitors, the day before the attack on the Capitol. And they're folks taking pictures who apparently showed up at the riot at places you don't really take pictures. So there's a lot more explaining to do about this.
Yeah, the receipts from one day where you see the people taking the photographs, they're back the next day, at least one of them on tape, making these threats outside the Capitol. What do you make of this back and forth?
Look, it's troubling, and one hopes that the committee really has hard sort of evidence and more there than simply sending a letter out that they released publicly. Lofgren says he didn't even get it himself. So there's a real discrepancy in accounts here. Yeah. And, you know, it's not going so far as to say he's culpable of having helped plot an insurrection against the Capitol. I mean, they're not doing that, but he does have a lot more to explain.
Yeah. And what they're asking is, come forward, answer the questions, explain, and he's decided that he will not do that.
And that seems to be the tell in all this, right?
Right.
You know, everyone who's testifying so far, you know, under oath in the Jan 6 hearing seems to be saying, for example, that Donald Trump was told that he'd lost the election. Everyone who's insisting on his innocence is refusing to take the oath. So in this context, that if you refuse to take an oath and testify, it seems to be an admission of non-innocence at the very least. So that's on him.
Let's talk about clarity. And we heard from a member of the 1-6 committee, Zoe Lofgren, Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren. She seemed to suggest that the $60,000 paid to Kimberly Guilfoyle for her remarks at the rally at the Lips on January 6, 2021, they came from donations to a Trump fundraiser, this election defense fund. In fact, we've learned that it came from Turning Point, actually a donation from the Publix heiress to that organization. Factually, it's not right. She calls it a grift. That's for you two to decide. But what do you make of that? Is that problematic for the committee?
Look, the committee at this point, all eyes are on the committee and how careful they're being in terms of how they're communicating every element of evidence to the American people. Yeah. And so it's enormously important for them to be incredibly clear and accurate. And it does appear that Representative Lofgren maybe spoke to
maybe she mischaracterized
it. She maybe mischaracterized it. Maybe she didn't mean to mischaracterize it. Look, $60,000 to speak in a lift speech, which is the take back the big lie speech by a 2-minute speech. I know that's an extraordinary amount of money. Regardless of what entity paid it. Yeah. It also appears there's some CNN reporting that the heiress who donated that money to Turning Point had apparently excluded speeches from what she wanted her donation to go to. So I would suggest where there's smoke, there's fire. Let's look at it. But on the committee, they got to be. There can't be any missteps.
Yeah, John.
I mean, just look. The larger takeaway is how corrupting the partisan economy is.
Yeah, that's right.
And the money's all fungible, and it's being flooded to sort of stop the steal rallies, and it's ending up in people's pockets where nobody intended it to go, including in this case the heiress. When the president's son's girlfriend gets $60,000, among other things, it gives a little more insight why she's yelling "the best is yet to come," because it's about to hit her bank account.
All right, John. Let's talk about these primary elections yesterday. Tom Rice, who voted for or in support of impeachment for the president, former president, lost his primary. Nancy Mace, she won. You tweeted out that people are reading way too much into this. Why?
Look, this is about South Carolina. People are really like to look at that and say, look, this is because Tom Rice voted to impeach and Nancy Pace refused to support overturning the election, but then tried to back off and make nice with Trump. That's a fundamental misreading of the facts on the ground, it seems to me. Here's what you got to keep in mind. Rice's district is northern coastal South Carolina, Myrtle Beach. Just to use an example, Horry County, which is the county that encloses Myrtle Beach, went for Donald Trump 2-1. So it is a hardcore Trump area, and that turnout for Republican primary is going to be even more so. Nancy Mace's district, where my parents live, 1st District, South Carolina, Charleston County, went for Joe Biden by 12 points. It is just much more of a swing district, and a more moderate group of Republicans are going to turn out. That's why she pulled it out. So I think it's just important to remember the all politics local and put it through that prism.
All right. Do you think there's anything, arguably the person at the top of the congressional hit list for former President Trump is Vice Chair of this committee, Liz Cheney?
Oh, I don't think there's any argument about that.
Is there
I think
anything
you got it.
that can be extrapolated to that race in Wyoming?
Look, John's right. All politics is local. All you have to do is look at that race. And Liz Cheney, there is I don't know a pollster in America who could look at polling in Wyoming and say Liz Cheney's got a path to pull this out. It is going to be, I think her race looks a lot like Tom Rice's race. And by the way, her district looks a lot like Wyoming.
But look, we're playing for history's stakes here. Remember, politics is history in the present tense. And if Tom Rice and Liz Cheney are trying to do the right thing by history's eyes, to be honorable, to insist on the truth against lies, they'll be vindicated in the eyes of history. And they'll have a longer future than folks who are trying to double down for short-term gain.
You know, you can die on that moral hill, but then you don't have the responsibility of the American people at your behest in order to do the right thing. But God, I'd like to see her still in Congress.
John, Margaret, thank you.
Good to see you, man.
All right. Extreme weather, coast to coast. In the Midwest, dangerously high temperatures have knocked out power for thousands of people, and record rainfall at Yellowstone National Park could force it to stay closed for quite a while. We'll take you there.
At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot. We charge you a little. They put their names on arenas, we put ours on my lower back. So naturally, when they announced they'd be raising their prices due to inflation, we decided to deflate our prices due to not hating you. And if this were one of their ads, they'd end it here with a happy customer. So we'll end ours with an angry goat. Ooh, look at the angry goat.
Hybrid work is here. It's there. It's everywhere. But for someone to be able to work from here, there has to be someone here, making sure everything is safe, secure, consistent. So log in from here or here, assured that someone is here, ready to fix anything, anytime, anywhere, even here. That's because nobody, and I mean nobody, makes hybrid work work better. Cisco, the bridge to possible.
Panera chefs have crafted a masterpiece. Succulent seared chicken, a secret aioli, clean ingredients, in a buttery brioche roll made fresh to leave you speechless. Panera's new Chef's Chicken Sandwiches, $0 delivery fee for a limited time.
Whoa. Oh, one more, let's go.
No, honey, it's going. Wish you could skip the credits? Dish On Demand now lets you auto-advance to the next episode. Skip the credits with Auto Advance from Dish.
Fact, we all love video doorbells. Voice assistants have changed our lives. We now control our home with a touch. Indoor and outdoor cameras help us keep watch. We want to guard our lives and hold tight to our loved ones everywhere. And you know what's better than all these things by themselves? All these things together from the most trusted name in security, ADT.
Meet three moms who each like to bank their own way. Luckily, they've all got Chase. Smart bankers. Convenient tools. One bank with the power of both. Chase, make more of what's yours.
I got a good feeling. Feel it in my bones, gotta shake it out. I'm going harder than before, let me hear you shout. Oh, no. I'm the talk of the town. I know you're feeling it now.
This is Frank. Frank is my best friend. The type of best friend who becomes family. I do my best to take care of Frank and give him everything he needs to be healthy and happy. I choose Jinx because it's made with real, clean ingredients, packed with premium proteins like organic chicken and powered by superfoods. I take care of him like I take care of me, because that's what family does.
Sunday, celebrate, educate, and lift every voice. The Roots, Khalid, Yolanda Adams, and so much more. Juneteenth, a global celebration for freedom. Sunday at 8 Eastern, only on CNN.
Hello, my name is Seth Chandler with Witter Coin right here in San Francisco. We've been in business since 1960, focused on the buying and selling of collectible coins, vintage jewelry, gold and silver bullion, and old U.S. paper money. I invite you to come visit our gorgeous new showroom right here on Lombard Street. We can show you our inventory, and we're more than happy to look at what you have, because a cornerstone of our business is that we give free, honest opinions about what your items are worth. There's no obligation. So I'm looking forward to seeing you in our showroom. Thank you.
My name is Lily, and I'm a foster kid. I want to tell you about CASA, Court-Appointed Special Advocates. They are volunteers who help abused and neglected kids. A lot of kids are taken out of their homes and put in foster care for their protection. That was me. But I got a CASA volunteer, Helen. She really cares about me and helps me. Please give to CASA and give a foster kid someone who really cares. Go to helpfosterchildren.com.
I'm Manu Raju on Capitol Hill, and this is CNN.
Closed captioning brought to you by Mesobook.com.
We offer a free book on mesothelioma. Call for the free book and receive so much more. Call 1-800-831-3700.
Nearly 100 million Americans are sweating through some record-breaking temperatures right now. A dangerous heat wave is stretching across large portions of the country. Now, this excessive heat is testing power grids and forcing closures, including in Detroit, where public schools are closing early for the rest of the week. In central Ohio, tens of thousands of people are without power. The heat index in Columbus is expected to climb near 110 degrees. And Yellowstone National Park is closed again today. Record flooding forced evacuations, and people in some nearby communities are stranded there without safe drinking water. CNN's Nick Watt is with me now from Gardner, Montana. So parts of Yellowstone may be shut down for quite a while. What's happening?
Well, Victor, the northern entrance, which is where we are, is going to be closed for months, probably for the rest of the summer at least. Why? There is only one road into the park through this northern entrance, and the Yellowstone River has washed it away in multiple places. It's going to take months to fix that. So Gardner, this town, the gateway to the park, has basically become a ghost town. I just bumped into one of the county commissioners. Yep, that's the kind of county and town this is. You bump into people. And he said, we need help. I also spoke with a woman who runs an inn here. Take a listen to what she had to say.
Do you have anybody staying at the moment?
I think we have one person they might have checked out this morning, but other than that, that's it.
Where? And do you live
we were booked. Yes, I live right across the street.
You were booked?
We were booked.
And
we
now
were
you
booked
have one
solid
person
for
who's
a
leaving.
year. We were booked for a year.
And so how this happened, it's basically climate change impacting people's livelihoods. There was a huge dump of snow late in the snow season. There were very high temperatures early in the summer season, and there was rain. And that all combined to basically raise the Yellowstone to levels never recorded before. And they reckon, about 3 months worth of water barrel down here in the course of just 3 days. Now, where I'm standing, Jim, if you pan over, I think we've all seen the pictures of that house floating away. That house used to be here, and it is no longer. And I don't want to get any closer to there because the river is running underneath us now. They are going to lose more. Now, all of this was actually predicted by a U.S. Geological Survey study last year in Montana that said there would be more rain, that there would be earlier, heavier snow melt, basically that this would happen, and it just has. And this is also not over even for now. So there's about 12 inches of the snowpack still left up there. There are high temperatures in the 60s and 70s forecast for this weekend. So the fear is there is going to be more snow melting, the river's going to rise, and there could be more damage. Victor?
Wow. Nick Watt for us there in Gardner, Montana. Thank you, Nick. A chief GOP negotiator on gun reform is casting some doubt on when we'll actually see the text of a bipartisan bill. He says key issues still need to be ironed out. Democratic Senator Cory Booker joins us next to discuss.
You could go from point A to B, or you could go to point X. the BMW X Range. Your next X venture starts here.
See your local BMW Center today for exceptional lease and finance offers.
My relationship with my credit cards wasn't good. I got into debt in college, and no matter how much I paid, it followed me everywhere. Between the high interest, the fees, I felt trapped. So I broke up with my credit card debt and consolidated it into a low-rate personal loan from SoFi. I finally feel like a grown-up.
Break up with bad credit card debt. Get a personal loan with no fees, low fixed rates, and borrow up to $100K. Go to SoFi.com to view your rate. SoFi, get your money right.
Better luck next time.
But I haven't even thrown yet.
You threw good money away when you bought those glasses. Next time, go to America's Best, where 2 pairs and a free exam start at just $79.95.
Can't beat that.
Can't beat this either. Book an exam today at americasbest.com.
You may think every weather app is the same until you see WeatherBug over-deliver on so many layers. With millions of 5-star reviews and more free map layers than any other weather app, WeatherBug warns you the moment lightning strikes near you, prepares you for your commute with road conditions, routes, and even cameras. With everything from pollen and air quality to severe storm risks, radar, and satellite coverage, WeatherBug protects you from the unexpected. Used by over 10 million and counting. Download the WeatherBug app today for free.
Applebee's late night, because half off is just more fun. Now that's eating good in the neighborhood.
We need to reduce plastic waste in the environment.
That's why at America's beverage companies,
our bottles are made to be remade.
Not all plastic is the same.
We're carefully designing our bottles to be 100% recyclable, including the caps.
They're collected and separated from other plastics,
so they can be turned back into material that we use to make new bottles.
That completes the circle and reduces plastic waste.
Please help us get every bottle back.
What if Skechers took extreme comfort and cutting-edge technology and swirled it together? You'd get new Skechers Swirl Tech, the future of comfort and performance footwear, with ultra-lightweight hyperburst cushioning for extreme comfort, plus Goodyear performance rubber. New Skechers Swirl Tech.
You know, I've been watching you, and I'm very proud of the woman you've become. My little butterfly is spreading her wings into the future. And that's why I want to give you a few shares of my Grayscale funds.
Wait, this is about crypto?
Yes! Grayscale offers so many different digital currency funds. They're a leader, and I want to give you the best, Mom. You deserve the best.
I really do.
Grayscale, building the future of financial legacies.
MLB on TBS Tuesdays is a new home for primetime baseball.
What a moment.
And it is gone. Every Tuesday night.
It makes the catch.
All season long.
This is special.
MLB on TBS Tuesdays.
Certified pre-owned Acura are held to the highest standards, and the proof is in the performance. With a 182-point inspection and a 7-year powertrain warranty. Deals are on now. See your Northern California Acura dealer today.
Emergency planning for kids. We can't predict when an emergency will happen, so that's why it's important to make a plan with your parents. Here are a few tips to stay safe. Know how to get in touch with your family. Write down phone numbers for your parents, siblings, and neighbors. Pick a place to meet your family if you are not together and can't go home. Remind your parents to pack an emergency supply kit. Making a plan might feel like homework, but it will help you and your family stay safe during an emergency.
Certified pre-owned Acura are held to the highest standards, and the proof is in the performance. With a 182-point inspection and a 7-year powertrain warranty. Deals are on now. See your Northern California Acura dealer today.
Juneteenth, a global celebration for freedom, Sunday at 8 Eastern, only on CNN.
Today, the White House announced an additional $1 billion in new military aid to Ukraine. Now, it comes as U.S. intelligence believes the war is reaching a pivotal stage. Russia continues to make some important gains in the east while Ukraine burns through ammunition. It's an issue Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin addressed with his counterparts from close to 50 countries earlier today. CNN's Oren Lieberman joins us now from the Pentagon. So what will be included in this latest shipment?
Victor, this is a $1 billion package. Part of this will come directly from U.S. inventories, about a third of it, and the other 2/3 will come from what's known as the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative, where the U.S. will contract directly with arms makers to get those weapons to Ukraine. In terms of what's in this package, 18 more howitzers and some 36,000 rounds of ammunition. That's on top of what the U.S. has already sent in, as well as ammunition for the HIMARS system, a multiple launch rocket system. The training on that just completed today, so that weapon, one of the most powerful and advanced weapons the U.S. has sent in, that should be in the fight by the end of the month. In terms of what the U.S. will contract, 2 Harpoon coastal defense systems, so those will also at some point be joining the fight to protect Ukraine's coasts from the Russian Navy that's operating in the Black Sea. In terms of why this is so critical, Russia has made incremental, but as you pointed out, important gains in eastern Ukraine. Ukraine is fighting back. The top U.S. general says the outcome here, not inevitable.
It's not a done deal. There are no inevitabilities in war. War takes many, many turns. So I wouldn't say it's a inevitability, but I would say that the numbers clearly favor the Russians. In terms of artillery, they do outnumber, they outgun and outrange. You've heard that many, many times. And they do have enough forces. But the Russians have run into a lot of problems. They've got command and control issues, logistics issues, they've got morale issues, leadership issues, and a wide variety of other issues.
Other countries have also committed to send in following this main forum, including, for example, Germany, which will send in 3 of its own multiple launch rocket systems. Victor.
All right, Oren, I see you're not at the Pentagon. Clearly, it's not in Brussels. You're at NATO headquarters there where the Secretary of Defense is today. Let me ask you about the reporting we're getting about 2 American fighters missing in Ukraine, feared captured. What do you know?
Victor, we just have some basic information here, but let me fill you in on what we do know to this point. 2 American fighters who were fighting alongside Ukrainian forces are missing. They've been missing for about a week now, and the fear is that they have been captured by Russian forces. Their names, as we've learned, are Alexander John Robert Druk. He is 39 years old, and Andy Huyn. He is 37 years old. Both men are from Alabama. We've spoken to those close to them who last talked to them on June 8th. From a man who was acting as their team sergeant who wished to remain anonymous for his own security reasons. They were fighting north of Kharkiv in northeast Ukraine on June 9th when there was a very heavy fight, and that's where they went missing. The fear, as you pointed out, is that they were captured by the Russian forces. The State Department says they are aware of these unconfirmed reports and they are in touch with Ukrainian authorities, but won't say any more than that at this point. Victor.
All right, Oren Lieberman, thank you. Happening now, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell is speaking to reporters after issuing the largest interest rate hike in 28 years. We have some new developments.
You love rich, delicious ice cream, but your stomach doesn't. That disagreement ends right now. Lactate ice cream is the creamy, real ice cream you love that will never mess with your stomach. Lactate ice cream.
What if you were in charge of your child's education? Wouldn't you choose safe, consistent learning from state-certified teachers? How about classes that bubble over into fun and let your child learn at their own pace? What about a tuition-free online school that doesn't leave parents on the sidelines? Welcome to K-12. We've been doing this for more than 20 years. What are you waiting for? Take charge at K12.com. Enroll today.
Dad needed a place where he would no longer be living alone. We needed a senior living community that could best care for Dad's progressing memory loss. A place where Mom had the experience to guide us. My senior living advisor understood our needs, recommended a range of memory care communities, and was with us every step of the way. It gave us confidence in our decision. Now Dad's getting the special care that he needs.
Our service comes at no cost to your family. Connect with us today.
Es increíble.
When all the love is in one place, entertainment never ends. See where it takes you. Prime Video.
Welcome to your world. Your why. What drives you? What do you want to leave behind? What do you want to give back? What do you want to be remembered for? That's your why. It's your purpose, and we will work with you every step of the way to achieve it. At PNC Private Bank will help you take care of the how. So tell us, what's your why?
Cracked windshield? Schedule with SafeLight, and we'll come to you to fix it. This customer was enjoying her morning walk. We texted her when we were on our way. She could track us and see exactly when we'd arrive.
I have a few more minutes. Let's go.
We came to her with service that fit her schedule.
You must be Pascal.
Nice to meet you. We got right to work with a replacement she could trust. We're all set.
Wow, that looks great.
Schedule now at safelight.com.
SafeLight Repair, SafeLight Replace.
Realtor.com shows me fire factor and flood factor, which helps me understand my risks.
With Fire Factor, you can learn about fire risks before you buy a home.
You can even search the map to see the risks by neighborhood.
Do yourself a favor and use Realtor.com.
It's so musty in here.
Everybody
Damp Rid. Drop in the tab, attract and trap excess moisture, eliminate musty odors.
Sunday, celebrate, educate, and lift every voice. The Roots, Khalid, Yolanda Adams, and so much more. Juneteenth, a global celebration for freedom. Sunday at 8 Eastern, only on CNN.
This is Xfinity Rewards. Our way of showing our appreciation. With rewards of all shapes and sizes.
Are we actually going?
Yes! And once-in-a-lifetime moments.
2 tickets to NASCAR! Yes!
Find rewards like these and so many more in the Xfinity app.
Does your business need proactive protection? At Green Shield Security Services, we specialize in properly handling people in environments where security is wise, working toward de-escalation, avoiding negative encounters. We provide security services in the Bay Area for hotels, apartment complexes, events, construction, encampment sites, and also offer personal security. Our team is trained for intervention and prevention. For rates, references, and depth of expertise, call us today.
Closed captioning brought to you by InventHelp. Call 1-800-710-0020.
Do you have an idea for an invention? Call today for free information.
Call 800-710-0020.
Right now on Capitol Hill, some mixed messaging on when we'll actually see a gun safety deal, the actual legislation. Republican Chief Negotiator Senator John Cornyn says it may not happen at the end of this week because he's still concerned about a couple of key issues. CNN Chief Congressional Correspondent Manu Raju has talked with the Republican lead negotiator. What are these issues?
Yeah, there are two issues that they're trying to hammer out. Remember, this group, 20 members, 10 Republicans, 10 Democrats, they did agree on an outline, a basic outline, but they are trying to turn that into detailed legislative text, which is proving to be a difficult issue. The two issues they're trying to sort out: red flag laws. These are the laws that states can adopt to essentially allow authorities to take away firearms from individuals who are deemed a risk. There's talk in this legislation to provide funding for states to adopt these laws. And also the issue of the so-called boyfriend loophole, closing that loophole, allowing people, domestic partners who have been convicted of misdemeanor offenses related to domestic abuse, denying their access to firearms. But Cornyn indicated there is still disagreement about how to deal with that red flag law funding, as well as how to define who would fall under that so-called boyfriend loophole.
One of the issues has to do is whether the funds that we will vote for will be available to states that don't have red flag laws but do have crisis intervention programs and things like mental health courts, veterans courts, assisted outpatient treatment programs, things like that. The other issue has to do with the way that non-traditional relationships are handled in terms of domestic violence, misdemeanors. We've got to come up with a good definition of what that actually means.
Now, these negotiators are planning to meet this afternoon to deal with those differences. I did ask Cornyn whether it would be a heavy lift to get a deal by the end of this week, finish the legislative drafting by the end of this week. He said maybe not a heavy lift, but it will be a lift. And the goal had been to try to pass this next week. And the big reason why there is a dispute over that red flag law issue is because conservatives in particular are concerned about incentivizing states to do this, saying that allowing these laws to go forward could deny people their Second Amendment rights.
So some work still.
I don't think that we should be spending taxpayer dollars to encourage states to take away weapons from law-abiding taxpayers and U.S. citizens. So I've got major concerns about that.
Red flag laws need investment of hundreds of millions of dollars for them as an incentive, but also to implement them. And at the same time, we can have a variety of other crisis intervention modes that also help save lives.
So the Democrats are saying there, Victor, that there needs to be actual details to ensure that the states don't just take the money and use it for other issues, but deal with actually implementing those red flag laws. Republicans say that the money should actually allow states to do other issues, such as state crisis intervention centers and other matters, rather than just simply using it to implement those new red flag laws. So that dispute continues, Victor. The question is, can they resolve it and get that all finalized by this week?
All right, Manu Raju for us on Capitol Hill. Thank you, Manu. Joining us now to discuss is New Jersey Democratic Senator Cory Booker. He is part of the bipartisan group of senators working on this. Senator, thank you for your time here. I hope you heard some of the concerns that Senator Cornyn expressed about the boyfriend loophole, how non-traditional relationships would be treated, also the funding for these incentives for red flag laws in states. Are those concerns, do you think, easily assuaged, that those will be solved pretty shortly?
You know, I was in conversations about this earlier, and I'm hopeful that we can work through some of these challenges. The reality is we know, and both sides of the aisle have had these conversations, know that the same reason why we're restricting spouses, these non-traditional relationships, often we are getting the same levels of violence manifested through gun violence as we see often through married couples. So there's an urgency, there's good intention on both sides. I think we can work through this.
When do you expect there will be language, there will be a bill for senators, for the public to read?
So I'm encouraged. There is, again, on both sides, Senator Cornyn and his team, Democratic leaders like Chris Murphy, both want to get it done ASAP. And to me, they're hoping they can get something done before the week is out.
Okay, you still think that's possible?
Look, I see some of the drafting challenges as we were discussing earlier today, but we're pushing hard. But this is always where the rubber meets the road. This is always what makes it challenging. I'm going to tell you, I've been around this Washington, D.C. for 8 years as New Jersey Senator. This is the most good intention I see. People really leaning into this, trying to answer the public's hue and cry to get something done. We know the stakes are high. This clearly is not going to solve everything, but if we can get this done, it'll be the greatest gun safety legislation we've passed in 30 years here.
So you say it's the greatest gun safety legislation in 30 years. I read a piece in the New York Times. They spoke with a man named Ricardo Negron, who survived the Pulse shooting 2016. And he supports it. He says that it's something, right? He supports the elements, but he also said it's the bare minimum of the bare minimum. So you say it's significant. What do you say to those people who say it just doesn't feel like enough?
I tell them, come to my community. When I was mayor of the city of Newark, so many of our guns were coming into Newark because of straw purchasers who were trafficking guns into our city. Well, finally, we've been fighting for it for years. That becomes a significant federal penalty for that. Number two, we are a nation that has a lot of folks who get the guns that we know are showing early warning signs that can be predicted and detected. The bolstering of resources for red flag laws will save lives. What we were just discussing, the boyfriend loophole, we've been trying to close that for years and years and years. As so many women who have a significant other who has murdered them, this is something that could actually, if we get it right, can save lives. So yes, it is a step in the right direction. Does it get us to where we need to go? Are we still going to have an epidemic of gun violence? Yes. But dear God, for those of us who are dealing with this every single day, for people that live in neighborhoods like mine, because remember, these mass shootings are horrific, but they're a small percentage of the everyday shootings we have in America, and there's an urgency. Lives depend upon us getting something done.
Yeah. Getting from the agreement on the framework, and you've got 10 Republican senators, let's make it 11. We heard some positive comments from Mitch McConnell as well, but he still wants to see the legislation. Getting from that point to yays on actual legislation, there's still some work to do. And we're hearing from the gun lobby, Gun Owners of America, which is to the right of the NRA. They wrote to their members, "This is our do or die moment. We need one senator, maybe now two, to change course in order to rip gun control, as they call it, to pieces." Are you confident that you'll have these senators when it's time to actually cast those votes?
I have reasonable confidence that we can get it done. I know that they're going to face a lot of backlash, and this is what I predict. If and when we get this done, all the fire and brimstone that's supposed to rain down on many of these senators' heads, it's just not going to appear. How do I know that? Because in states like Florida, where they passed a moderate gun safety laws, the people who voted for it, none of them lost their office because of it. And so a lot of these big beasts of organizations are paper tigers when it comes to the general electorate, where the majority of Republicans agree with common sense legislative changes like the ones we're proposing.
But, Senator, that was the argument in 2013 when then Vice President came to Congress and said, we have to do something. Here's the list of polls that show that most Americans want universal background checks, that they want this list of gun safety elements, and that went nowhere. So when you say you're confident that there will be no backlash, that these groups are paper tigers, history would suggest that they're not.
Well, again, I give you the facts of folks in purple and red states. Because of the organizing of groups like Moms Demand Action and Parkland's Kids, there has been a lot of gun legislation passing on the state level where, again, very few people are losing offices as a result of that. But you're right, on the federal level, how many Parklands, how many new towns, how many churches and mosques and synagogues have we had to have our fellow countrymen slaughtered until we on the federal level do something? And until this moment, I have not seen 10 Republicans willing to get on a moderate, modest, incremental change like this. But we have that now, never before seen in my time in the Senate or the years before. So this does give us hope. But again, I always say hope is the active conviction that despair will never have the last word, with the operative word being active. We're going to stay active, stay on this, keep pushing until we get something done.
One other topic here, you sit on Senate Foreign Relations there, and we heard from the Majority Whip, Dick Durbin, who's concerned about the president's planned visit to Saudi Arabia. Of course, Mohammed bin Salman, the U.S. intel community says he's responsible for the murder of Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Are you concerned about the president's decision to go there? And we know he will engage in some way with MBS.
Again, I'm concerned about human rights violations in many, many different countries, and that's something we should take seriously and focus on that. Is the president doing the right thing by going to Saudi Arabia, who's not just important for the oil issues? There are a whole bunch of regional issues in which the Saudis are allies, like the Abraham Accords. So, yes, I believe and I'm confident the president is doing the right thing. I believe we have a complex relationship with Saudi Arabia, but when it comes to the regional crises that we have with countering Iran and their ballistic missiles, with dealing with the protection of our critical ally Israel, and many, many more things, it's very important we have dialogue and engagement with Saudi Arabia.
Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, this just in to CNN, Dr. Anthony Fauci has tested positive for COVID-19. Details ahead.
More protection, more sun, more joy. Neutrogena Beach Defense. The sun care brand used most by dermatologists and their families. Neutrogena, for people with skin.
I had been giving Coley kibble. It never looked like real food. With the farmer's dog, you can see the pieces of turkey. It smells like actual food. As he's aged, he's still quite energetic and youthful. I really attribute that to diet.
Get started at longlivedogs.com.
The Eat Fresh Refresh just won't stop. Now Subway's refreshing their catering. We're talking platters fit for any event, like throwing yourself an over-the-top party.
Who would do such a thing?
Yeah, I wonder. Subway keeps refreshing and refreshing and
Are you haunted by your cable service?
Have you noticed strange, frightening fees on your monthly bill?
Do you experience feelings of dread when you pass by your cable box?
If the answer is yes,
who are you gonna call?
DirecTV Stream. Now save $30 over 2 months.
My mental health was much better. My mind was in a good place. But my body was telling a different story.
I felt all people saw were my uncontrolled movements. Some mental health meds can cause
tardive dyskinesia, or TD, and it's unlikely to improve without treatment.
Ingrezza is a prescription medicine to treat adults with TD movements in the face and body. It's the only treatment for TD that's one pill once daily with or without food. Ingrezza 80 milligram is proven to reduce TD movements in 7 out of 10 people. People taking Ingrezza can stay on their current dose of most mental health meds. Don't take Ingrezza if you're allergic to any of its ingredients. Ingrezza may cause serious side effects, including sleepiness. Don't drive, operate heavy machinery, or do other dangerous activities until you know how Ingrezza affects you. Other serious side effects include potential heart rhythm problems and abnormal movements.
It's nice people focus more on me.
Ask your doctor about Ingrezza, #1 prescribed for TD. Learn how you could pay as little as $0 at Ingrezza.com.
I feel refreshed because I'm not struggling with CPAP anymore.
She looks great.
I got Inspire. Great sleep at the click of a button.
Did you get implants?
Yeah, I got an implant, Sheila. It's Inspire.
Learn more and view important safety information at inspiresleep.com.
Top of a brand new hour on CNN Newsroom. Good to have you. I'm Victor Blackwell. The Federal Reserve just announced its biggest interest rate hike in 28 years. It went up by 0.75 percentage point, marking the central bank's most aggressive move yet to try to bring down the soaring costs of food.